Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Status Srimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Sri Sri Radha Radhanath ki, Sri Giri Govardhan ki, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Sankirtan Yagya ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. The guard, the gate closes, yeah, it's closed. Someone want to just manipulate this for the time being, if devotees come. It's the blue thing, the blue button. Okay, sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 1, Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu, Text 5. Aninye Swa Griham Putriya Putram Vitata Rochisham Swayambhava Muda Yukta Ruchir Jagraha Dakshinam Aninye Swagriham Putriya Putram Vitata Rochisham Swayambhava Muda Yukta Ruchya Jagraha Dakshinam Aninye Swagriham Putriya Putram Vitata Rochisham Swayambhava Muda Yukta Ruchir Jagraha Dakshinam Aninye Swagriham Putriya Putram Vitata Rochisham Swayambhava Muda Yukta Ruchir Jagraha Dakshinam Mataji's Putra Putram Vitata Rochisham Swayambhava Muda Yukta Ruchir Jagraha Dakshinam Swagriham Putra Putram Vitata Rochisham Swayambhava Muda Yukta Ruchir Jagraha Dakshinam. Ananye brought to Swagriham home, Putriya born of the daughter, Putram the son, Vitatarochisham very powerful, Swayambhuva the Manu named Swayambhuva, Muda being very pleased, Yukta with Ruchi the great sage Ruchi, Jagraha kept, Dakshinam the daughter named Dakshina. Translation: Swayambhuva Manu very gladly brought home the beautiful boy named Yagya, and Ruchi, his son-in-law, kept with him the daughter Dakshina. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Swayambhuva Manu was very glad to see that his daughter Akuti had given birth to both a boy and girl. He was afraid that he would take one son, and that because of this his son-in-law Ruchi might be sorry. Thus, when he heard that a daughter was born along with the boy, he was very glad. Ruchi, according to his promise, returned his male child to Swayambhuva Manu and decided to keep the daughter, whose name was Dakshina. One of Lord Vishnu's names is Yagya, because he is the master of the Vedas. The name Yagya comes from Yajushampati, which means Lord of all sacrifices. In the Yajurveda, there are different ritualistic prescriptions for performing yagyas, and the beneficiary of all such yagyas is the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore it is stated in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, verse 9, Yagyartat karmana. One should act, but one should perform one's prescribed duties only for the sake of yagya or Vishnu. If one does not act for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if one does not perform devotional service, then there'll be reactions to all one's activities. It does not matter if the reaction is good or bad. If our activities are not dovetailed with the desire of the Supreme Lord, or if we do not act in Krishna consciousness, then we shall be responsible for the results of all our activities. There's always a reaction to every kind of action, but if actions are performed for yagya, there is no reaction. Thus, if one acts for yagya, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is not entangled in the material condition, for it is mentioned in the Vedas and also in Bhagavad Gita that the Vedas and the Vedic rituals are all meant for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. From the very beginning, one should try to act in Krishna consciousness. That will free one from the reactions of material activities. Ananye swagriham putriya, putram vitatarochisham, swayambhuvo muda yukto, ruchya jagraha dakshinam. Translation: Swayambhuva Manu very gladly brought home the beautiful boy named Yagya, and Ruchi, his son-in-law, kept with him the daughter Dakshina. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pracharne. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Deshatarne. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so Swambhuva Manu, he's great transcendental personality. He's one of the Mahajans, so he's great devotional transcendental personality. And he was aware, because as we mentioned the other day, that it was Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur made the point. Swambhuva Manu was omniscient. Yeah. It was not just that he was intelligent and he could figure things out and understand in a situation what might be the best course of action, but he was actually omniscient, past, present, future. And therefore he was always able to make the right decisions, the best decisions, and therefore understanding that the son of Ruchi and Akuti, Ruchi, the great sage Prajapati, is one of the Prajapatis, but he's also a great sage, very enlightened person. So Swambhuva Manu understood that the child, the boy who's going to be born from my daughter and her husband, my son-in-law, he's going to be an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Plus, so they had twins. Yeah, they had twins. And one was Yagya, the Supreme Lord. The other was Dakshina, who was, it was stated, if I recall, a partial expansion, I think something like that, partial expansion of Lakshmi. Really amazing, wonderful, transcendental personalities. So seeing his idea, and in fact the arrangement he made with Ruchi, was that the first boy you must give back to me. I want to raise him as my son. So Ruchi agreed. Even though Swambhuva Manu already had two sons, who were, of course, very nice and very qualified, but to have a child, a son who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's even far beyond just having nice children. Householders, of course, at least in the great majority of cases, they want to have very nice children. Of course, when children are little, they're quite prone to be nice. Yeah. Although there was one in particular who I saw, who was, even though he was just little, he wasn't nice. He hated Krishna consciousness, even as a sort of unintelligent little child. Otherwise, children, when they're small, they're prone to be nice, playful little living beings. But you've got to wait and see as they start to mature, how they develop. And that can be a different story, and it can be very challenging. So, but anyway, if you have a son who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, well, that surpasses even just having nice children, even very nice children. Some of our devotee children are exceptionally nice. Even as they grow up, they're just so nice. Devotees. But if your child is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he will surpass by far even the very nicest child, regular child. And therefore Srila Prabhupada made the point about Lord Krishna when he was a child. Srila Prabhupada said that when Krishna, as a child, small child, when Krishna was good, he was good. And when Krishna was naughty, when Krishna was bad, he was good. It was just all good. Even if Krishna was, by certain standards, naughty or bad or mischievous or something, really creating some situation. But still, he was good. Just like with Krishna, it's there. Krishna was stealing the butter, and sometimes, the internal energy, it acts in different ways and special ways. So even though generally the household ladies, they wanted Krishna to have the butter, and he would come and steal it, and they'd be happy. But sometimes, under the direction of the Leela Shakti, the pastime potency of the Lord, sometimes the ladies would get angry, even though actually they were generally very happy. All sorts of different exchanges were going on. Yes, Lord Caitanya coming to the Ganges, and sometimes he would, well, this month, or actually I guess it's last month now, isn't it? I think we're into the next lunar month, the month of Caitanya. Krishna stole the clothes of the gopis, but we hear of that only once with Krishna. Maybe it happened more and we just haven't heard of it, but particularly we hear of it once. But Lord Caitanya, as a child or sort of early youth, he would steal the clothes of the ladies and the men regularly. And he'd put the men's clothes where the ladies were bathing, and the ladies' clothes where the men were bathing, and the respective devotees would come out of the water and see that and, get upset. But Lord Caitanya, for him, it was just a laugh. And they'd ask him, because they knew it was him, they'd ask him sometimes, why have you done this? Do something about it. Like the men would say to him, come on, do something, just get the situation together. And Lord Caitanya would say, no, it's all right, thanks. I don't normally wear a sari, so just, leave me out of it. But he was the mischief maker. But everybody loved it, even though people complained, but at least so many, the devotees, they loved it. Because when Krishna is your child or your friend or your one of the neighborhood children, that sort of thing, then the whole experience of the relationship is just incredibly, unimaginably by our standards, just so blissful and just full of loving exchanges of different sorts, full of loving exchanges as, well, Vrindavan Das Thakur, and I think also Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, sometimes on a few occasions they say, after having recited some extraordinary pastime of Lord Caitanya, then they say that actually, if I was to describe in detail all the activities that Lord Caitanya performed on any one day, then the book, it would just be huge, because he was doing so much every day, and it was all just extremely special and unique and just wonderful and relishable. So therefore Swayambhuva Manu, being omniscient, knowing that the same wonderful person is going to take birth from my daughter and my son-in-law, he wanted to, there may well have been other reasons, but certainly one was he wanted to experience the childhood of the Supreme Lord from the position of the Father. So therefore he did like that. And initially he was feeling concerned before their children were born, because for twins to come is not so common. And normally it's just expected that one child will come. So he was feeling a little guilty that I'm going to be taking away from this great sage who's my son-in-law, and from my daughter, I'm going to be taking away their son. He was feeling apprehensive. But then twins were born, and he didn't feel so bad about it. So the child was named Yajna, which of course means sacrifice, and he's a form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I don't know actually, but, well, put it this way, Yajna is the name of the Yuga avatar of the Treta Yuga. Lord Yajna is the Yuga avatar of Treta Yuga. So I don't know if this Yajna and that Yajna are the same person. Maybe we'll find out as we go through the chapter. I don't know. But it's a fact that in the Treta Yuga, the process is Yajna. Tretayam Yajyato Makai. The Bhagavatam says, 12th canto, that Kritayad Dhyayato Vishnum, Tretayam Yajato Makai, Dwarparam Paracharyavam, Kalo Tad Harikirtanat. Bhagavatam describes the prescribed, the yuga dharmas of the 4 yugas, Krita Yuga, Satya Yuga, Dhyayato Vishnum, to meditate on Lord Vishnu, Tretayam Yajato Makai, Treta Yuga, to do fire sacrifice, Dwarparam Paracharyavam, Paracharyavam indicates deity worship, to serve the Lord in detailed ways, means to perform deity worship. And of course, Kalo, Kali Yuga, Tad, Hari Kirtanat, Tad, the same thing which was achieved in the other yugas by those processes, Kalo, Tad, that same thing will be achieved through Hari Kirtan, Hari Kirtanat. So in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada particularly, well, he explains the sort of the social, historical, social considerations about the boy and the girl and so on. But then actually, mainly, Srila Prabhupada focuses on the point of yajna, of sacrifice. You know, it may be that this is a different yajna from that yajna who's the Yuga avatar, because yajna is the name of more than one person. We have a devotee in Joburg whose name given by parents is Yajna, and it's actually a girl, in fact. So, Yajna, sometimes it may not be such a common name in our experience, but it's a name which is used sometimes. So yajna, of course, Srila Prabhupada refers to to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 9, so famous, Yagyartat karmanonyatra lokayam karma bandhana, tadartam karma konteya, muktasanga samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that you will always remain free from bondage. Yeah. So that's sort of, you could say, the classic verse describing the principle of yajna, of sacrifice. Although, of course, it's elaborated upon in different ways. That was chapter 3, verse 9, Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 3, verse 10, Lord Krishna says, Saha yajna praja srishtva, puravacha prajapati, anena prasavishyadvam, esha vost vishta kamaduk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, Be thou happy by this yajna, sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. Yes, so the principle of yajna is really, at least for those who are trying to be progressive and develop their lives in the right ways, actually follow real dharma. This principle of yajna is practically the most foundational principle of life. Certainly it's one of them, and without it, success in life is not possible. It's just not possible. No matter how nicely one lives, no matter how expertly someone lives in terms of following varnashram, in terms of performing non-Krishna conscious yagyas, no matter how nicely someone does all those things, their lives will be failures, and they'll be entangled. They'll have to take the reactions. And Srila Prabhupada, of course, makes the point, which is just so vital to be understood. It doesn't matter if the reaction is good or bad. It's all bad. Even if it's good, it's bad. Really. Just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he had been a palmist and involved in those types of sciences, astrology and astronomy and so on. And so even while he was a preacher, and the great preacher, leader of the Gaudiya Math, sometimes people would come before him and put their hand out, do a palm reading, because people are so interested in what's my material future. And we hear that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, sometimes when people would do that, sometimes he'd just refuse. And other times he'd take the hand and sort of apparently study it momentarily for some seconds or something, and then close it and say, all bad. Just chant Hare Krishna. Because it's true. Even good karma is bad. And that's so vital to understand for the devotees, that it's not possible for a person to become so materially expert that they can just arrange their lives so nothing, let us just say, nothing materially bad happens, but only material good comes their way or will come their way in the future as reactions because their activities are so good. Even if someone somehow or other does that, and there's literally, of course it's hardly possible at all, but just theoretically, if someone did that, then it's bad. It's terrible, actually. It's really terrible, because they'll have to take the reactions, and taking the reactions will entangle them further, and sooner or later they're just going to get onto the wrong path, and do some bad things and get some bad reactions, and then they're just going to get caught up so terribly. 8,400,000 species of life, only 400,000 are human. And even plenty of the human species, they live in just terrible situations. It's really a minority of the human species who live in enjoyable and pleasant situations like that. So therefore, yajna is unavoidable. when one is in this material world. One has to perform yajna, and that yajna has to be for Krishna. Yajusham pati. Yajusham pati means Krishna, who's the Lord of all sacrifices. Otherwise, if you don't, even if somehow you live so expertly, so piously, in the end, in due course, you'll be dragged down and you'll suffer. And you'll suffer terribly, not just ordinary suffering that you may think, well, let me tolerate it. It'll ease up after a while, but really some fantastic suffering. Yeah. Even Lord Caitanya makes the point in Caitanya Charitamrita that even if someone follows Varnashram perfectly, without Krishna consciousness, without Krishna consciousness, but the Varna, the ashram, and all these things done just so nicely, Lord Caitanya says the result will be you'll go to hell. So yes, as devotees, we really have to take these things into our hearts. Keep engaged wholeheartedly in devotional service and avoid deviation. Because, if you flirting with Maya, you may think you can get away with flirting with Maya and you don't get sort of sucked into some terrible situation a few times, but sooner or later it will catch up. Yeah, sooner or later. Therefore, one should really be steadfast. From the very beginning, one should try to act in Krishna consciousness. That will free one from the reactions of material activities. Otherwise, in one way or another way, at one time or another time, the result, if you're not Krishna conscious, the result will be truly disastrous. Hare Krishna. Any comment or question? Devotees, comments? Oh, yes. Oh.
So whether someone's pious or sinful, it's really they're coming into another womb in the next life, which is a suffering condition.
Oh, yes.
And I think for us as preachers, the persons who engage people in so-called pious activities, if we don't use what they're giving in Krishna service, we are really paving their way into another birth.
That's true.
And we're doing maybe the same for ourselves.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. It's just a question of time before it starts catching up. Actually, there's in Srila Baladev Vijabhushan's Bhagavad Gita commentary when it's the 14th chapter, or it's around there, the modes of nature. He talks about someone who is in the mode of goodness. They're just really predominantly in the mode of goodness, and therefore they're, first of all, they're very happy and everything's very nice. and they're enjoying it. They're getting pleasure. And when the pleasure comes, they feel, yes, oh, I'm getting enjoyment. So they're sort of enjoying the enjoyment. Then he says, so then they become attached to the enjoyment. And they feel, I must get, not just be nice, but I must get the enjoyment which comes from being nice. And he says, in this way, they slowly fall into the mode of passion on the basis that, I have to make the efforts to get the enjoyment of the mode of goodness. And so then they fall down from goodness into passion. Because you can't be situated in a materially, if you're materialistic and you're situated in a materially enjoyable situation, you can't avoid becoming attached to it. And then you go down. Hare Krishna. Oh, sorry, yes. Well, Devahuti is, and she's, well, Devahuti. Can you comment on that specifically? Yeah, it's an interesting point. Definitely in some cases, some of those who become the parents of different forms of the Lord, they are expansions of Nanda and Yashoda, like Dara, Drona and Dara. Who was it? Prishni and Sutapa. Yeah, they're expansions. But not necessarily in all cases. So when it comes to Devahuti being the mother of Lord Kapila, or Akuti in this case, and Ruchi being the parents of Yajna, I am not aware specifically in these cases. And Swarup Damodar Prabhu, who has an...
One site that is saying something like that, but it's not a very...
not a reliable site. Anyway, interesting question. We could look into it. It may be, it may not be, though. It's not just that every time it's like that. But sometimes it is. Is that okay for the time being? It'll have to be, I think. Well, that's possible. I must say I haven't actually read that, from Prabhupada. But in principle, it sounds possible. Yeah. That's what I'd say. In principle. Of course, Dakshina is a partial expansion of Lakshmi. Some of the avatars of the Lord are partial parts of parts, it gets complex. But, one could understand how it's certainly possible that where the Supreme Lord himself, not just some partial or reflected expansion or something like that, when the Lord himself appears, it's quite possible that it's like that. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.